Everyone's always asking me, Darky, do you like anime? No. Now I know this is my normal style of content. It's probably actually like the opposite, but it's something I've been wanting to do with my channel for quite a while, and that is basically just reviews. I want to watch shows, watch movies, play games, and I want to talk about it. Talk about what I thought about it, talk about my feelings on it. And I'm going to start that right now with a show I watched called I Parry Everything. Some of you may have already heard about this show. I know I have. I've seen like 100 ads for it at least. Well, it's probably just the exact same ad over and over again. So the company who made this show was hard pushing for it to get out there into everyone's eyes and stuff. And honestly, when I saw those ads, I wasn't very excited. I thought it was just gonna be like generic action adventure slop. And to a lot of people, it probably was, but I actually really enjoyed this show. I thought it was super fun. It was a great watch. The whole premise is pretty much just like in the title. This is one guy who has a sword and he only knows how to parry. So he just parries everything. And honestly, for the first bit, like the first like 6, 7, 8 episodes, it gave me almost like One Punch Man vibes. And it kind of made me feel at home watching it. Now, there is still like a lot of stuff you could complain about. And I know people are complaining because the show on Mal is rated a 6.9. Anything below a 7 usually isn't that good. And especially for this show, since the source material is also rated super low, like a 6.5 for the manga and a 6.8 for the light novel. So this show kind of was doomed from the start. Except it wasn't. This was a great show, super fun to watch. Now, if you're watching it as like a critiquer or something like that, there's definitely a lot of complaints. But if you're watching it to enjoy it, I think this was a great show. Now, the show's genres were like action, adventure, fantasy, but at times it felt more like a comedy. The main character was super dense. I don't think I've ever seen a more dense character. He could never put one and two together on anything. I don't think he did for a single. I don't think he did that for a single situation. In my mind, I remember the show being like made up of 90% misunderstandings and 10% comedy. It was super interesting, even though it was supposed to be, I think, like an actual action adventure. It was super funny and full of misunderstandings. And even in the first episode, this isn't really a spoiler, but the main character hit one of the hardest lines I think I've seen. So he did something pretty impressive or whatever, and someone asked for his name, and he's like, "Well, I'm no one important," and then walks away. It was so it was so cliche. It was hilarious. And there's a lot of scenarios like that with this show and this character. Just the dynamic was made up to be like that. And another great thing about this show, zero fan service. Not even an ounce of fan service. I thought that was so sick. And fan service, it can be good from time to time, right? But just a show like this was just so refreshing. It was great. Another thing that I also really appreciated about this show was the naming of each episode. Each episode was just very simple. I parry blank. And it would show the title at the end of the episode, and it would all make sense. They just made them fit so well. I really appreciated that. I also did enjoy the intro and outro songs. It's nothing crazy. Like, I'm not going to remember it. If I hear it again, I won't be able to pin what show it was from. So it's not like as good as like the Overlord openings and endings, or like ReZero's openings or endings. But still, it was nice. It was a nice, pretty calming song. And when I was going into this show, I didn't think a show called I Parry Everything would be fit for like a new season. But then again, One Punch Man also has like 3 seasons, and he just one punches everything. So, what do I know? And voila, I was proven wrong. By the end of the show, I saw so many paths they could go for a second season. Like, there is so many super cool badass characters that weren't like dived into at all. Maybe appeared for one episode or just like in flashbacks. So there's just so many characters that you could kind of like dive into more in a second season. So many people, so many places. Like, there's entire like groups of people, like countries that they didn't even dive into, but they did stuff in the show, as well as even some monsters and magic abilities that we saw that we didn't get very much information on. So I honestly think there's a lot of room for a second season, and I think they probably will come with a second season at some point, and I'm all for it. I'm very excited. But you can probably take most of this with a grain of salt, because I haven't watched an anime in almost a year, and this was my first anime back, so I could have like bias because I just missed anime a lot. But I thought this was a great show. The overall rating for the show on my anime list was a 6.9, but realistically, for me, I'd probably put it at a 9.5. This was such a fun watch. Of course, that 9.5 isn't on like the animation scale or something. It's just on pure enjoyment. I had a lot of fun with the show, lots of laughs, like smiles and stuff like that. It was just good vibes. It was a great vibes show. And that's probably going to be everything for this review. I did love the show. I would definitely recommend it if you want to check it out. I apologize for the low quality of like how I'm talking and stuff like that. This is like my first video where I'm just like talking to a camera, and I'm still super nervous, dude. If anyone has any advice on how to like make it easier to press the camera record button, dude, it was so difficult to start it. So I'd appreciate any advice. But yeah, that's going to be the video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.